I mean, just throughout the history of the site, what would you say was like some of your favorites, like people that you came across and you're like,
Oh,
man, that's fucked up, or something like that really caught your attention.
throughout the entire history of the site, way back when, the Deagle Nation stuff remains some of the funniest stuff that ever happened on the site. And the funny thing about that, it was that the guy behind it, Jan Rinkowski, he was like a MDE wannabe. He was in the area in Massachusetts near Sam Hyde and stuff, and he wanted to get in with MDE, and he put on like this fake lolcow thing. But it was so funny that even though I think all of us kind of knew that a little bit, that it was just a little bit too good to be true, it was still hilarious. And it was I did a stream about it. It's really hard to sum up. It was like a guy who
Well, yeah, I know he is. Like I always found it to be like it was a bit, but the one thing that did confuse me about that was the Brianna Wu thing. Because didn't they like have a incident where their car flipped and then they decided to just film next to it?
okay, so in short, this was during GamerGate, which if you don't know was a thing like 10 years ago that nobody cares about anymore. And despite what anybody else may say, it was a thing about games, video games, and a tranny that has to this day not come out as a tranny named Brianna Wu. Um, was one of the big players in GamerGate. So Jace, who went by oh god, what was his parkour dude? Parkour dude was his name. He was doing like a thing where it's like super cool Deagle guy. He's got like airsoft pistols and he skates and shit. And he's a gamer and he smokes weed. He had a spat where he kept making videos kind of like how Sam Hyde does with what's his face, Hassan Piker, like just trying
Yeah.
to get Brianna Wu to react to his thing. And he accomplished that when he had a real life car accident. He was driving and it was cold, it was Massachusetts, the road was iced over, his car flipped, and he instinctively gets out, pulls out his phone camera, and in character starts screaming about how Brianna Wu sabotaged his mom's Prius and got him driven off the road during an illegal street race in his mom's Prius, and how Brianna Wu was gonna get it, and how they're gonna street race to the grave. He said, and this got reposted onto like the Twitter, and it ended up Brianna Wu ended up on a show called The Internet Ruined My Life, where they played this they played this footage of Jan Rinkowski in character pointing a camera at his mom's Prius, screaming about street racing to the grave, and Brianna Wu had to do the line because it was the thing they all had to say during the show. After this ridiculous footage plays, they had to look at the camera and go, "The internet ruined my life." And it was beautiful.
Was that the same episode? Was she also, or was he also the one that had the bit about snipers outside the GamerGate snipers outside their house on rooftops and shit?
Maybe I don't remember that part. I
There
think
there were
that
a couple episodes of this if I remember right, but I guess sticking with the car thing, that I was like, oh, it's a bit, and then he's at a car wreck screaming about Brianna.
oh
I was like, what the fuck?
yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long now. I remember that I had an interview because after the car accident thing, I had an interview with a journalist, and we were talking, and I could hear him. It was on Skype to set the stage for how long ago this was. It's on Skype, and he was writing, and I could hear the pen grinding against the paper as he was physically taking notes about. Because again, this was 40 years ago, and this is an old man who still writes on pen and paper, physically taking notes. And I'm describing the Deagle Nation stuff. I'm procedurally going through it and itemizing it. And I remember exactly when he stopped. Exactly when he stopped taking notes because he knew that it was bullshit. And he got Brianna Wu to not talk about it anymore. I mentioned that our, Jace's friend was Israeli, and he had gone to Israel with the intent of assassinating Bibi, the prime minister of Israel, with a crossbow that shot paper clips. And that was the moment that the journalist stopped taking notes because his suspension of disbelief had ended. And everything I said after that was not recorded by him on that pen and paper. I very distinctly remember this.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that video is stuck in my head because he was screaming so loud next to this car wreck, and like I think Wu at the time had like a fucking motorcycle, and he was like, did he? I just Oh fuck, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
he did a lot of God. That was good times, and the real punchline is that he had like a troll Sona that he also, because the easiest way for him to play off information about the character was to have a fake troll that was just him, relaying things that had happened and stuff that would not make sense for Jace to say himself. Um, and his name was Deagle Dad 420, and I really liked Deagle Dad, and he was an admin of the site. His op went so far that I made him an admin of the site for a very long time, and I still miss him. He was a great guy. Here's the sad ending to that. After the car accident, when he was a child, he had seizures, and he hit his head, and the seizure stopped. And after the car accident, he hit his head again. He started having seizures again that were very debilitating. So it kind of put a halt in everything. It's really sad.
God, it's like some fucking it's like Gilligan Island silence or Gilligan Island science, right? Like an old TV show bet where like, oh, yeah, you got a problem, bonk him on the head, and then get bonked again, and it happens again.
Yeah,
That's pretty rough.
the brain is mysterious, and that I know for sure is not a like a joke or whatever. Because I hear that and it's like, that sounds like bullshit, but he stood by it for years.
Now watch. There's gonna be a video of a car wreck of him screaming about Josh Moon and the fucking Kiwi Farms.
Oh no, did he transition? Is that Keffels? Is it the 10-year op?
He's so dedicated, you never saw it coming.
That would be funny. I would laugh.